Okay, today we are going to take on another case study in economics, and these are very interesting topics. So, today's case studies that we will take on will deal with population and with trees. Now, this is interesting because you see, everybody knows that the population has been growing, but at what rate? What has been the population growth rate? What has been its impact on the environment? These are some things that economists often get interested with, and then they study this data. So, the truth of the matter is that the study of population is a different study, and it's called demographics, or it is studied by demographers. But economists have a tendency to get in everywhere, because wherever there will be population, there will be consumption of resources, and the study of resources, their uses, their application will be what economists will deal with. So population it just comes naturally that it will become a function, let us say, of the study of economics or the study of resources. So I don't know if population will be a function or will it be vice versa, yeah? Because many times in economics you can play it both ways. But let's try and look at some images for us to understand how the population has been growing. So we were about 1 billion people in 1802. For people who don't know what that 1 billion number means, it is 100 crores, 100 करोड़. So 1802 में एक शतक पहले हम करीब 100 करोड़ लोग थे. This is the population of the world, okay? And now we are 8 billion. So these images are taken from National Geographic, like you can see, it's from National Geographic there. And this graph has also been taken from National Geographic. The work that many times National Geographic does with how they present data is brilliant. And many times, you cannot do something better than them, so you might as well give them full credit for the kind of stuff that they have done and perhaps use an image. So in 125 years, okay, from 1802 through to about 2022 or whatever that we are standing on, you look at the population growth from 2 billion in 1927 or something to 8 billion in 2022, and they are expecting that the population will continue to grow. Although you can see that there are more people on earth than ever, and you can see that the population somewhere is actually declining. So if China, for instance, is beginning the decline, United States, the decline has been happening for a very long time. The only way they grow their population is that they, other than the reduction in the fertility rate, they allow people to migrate into their country. So that is how they keep the working population numbers high enough for the United States market economy to keep humming. And then they are giving India a lot of credit for saying that we are nearing the peak. But I will show you some data in India, 2020 data in India, which shows that India has perhaps gone over the peak. All right. And maybe we are actually looking at a population collapse, not just here, all over the world, but specifically in India, we are definitely going to look at a population collapse. And then this is what a population collapse looks like. So if you look at this graph from a little closer, you see that it goes up, and then it starts to fall, and suddenly it collapses. And then when it collapses, you have fewer working people. Like Italy, for instance, has a lot of older population, and then the fertility rate has gone down, and with the fertility rate going down and the population rate growth rate going slower, the population collapses. So you see, this is how they presented the data, and these are some lovely pictures of some babies born in some of India's hospitals. As usual, they do a great job of pictures and whatever else. But let me try and show you what the vital statistics are in India, for instance, because we are very concerned with India, apna desh. So let's look at the statistics in India. So right now, it seems family planning has been exceptionally successful across India. If you look at the data, it shows that it's really exceptionally successful. And now How do you measure the success of the data? You look at the total fertility rate. If you want your population to remain in replacement order, so let's assume like if there were 100 people in the beginning, and you want the 100 people to remain, all right? So generally the total fertility rate, or the number of children that a woman will have during the fertile years of her lifetime, is expected to be 2.1. So she will have some women will have 3 children, some women will have, between two women they'll have, lady may have 3 children and another lady may have 2 children. So between the two of them the total fertility rate will be 2.5, because 5 children will get divided between two ladies. So that's how you come up with the total fertility rate. But now if you take a look at the data, because this is the latest data which has come from the National Family Health Survey of 2019 and 20. So this data is barely 2 years old. This is more or less the concurrent or the latest data, so to speak. So this is the latest data that we have. You will see that in about 27, 28 of the 30 states that India has, 30 states and union territories, population growth rate is all less than 2, or maybe 2.1 maximum. And there are only 2 states which are beating this TFR. One is Bihar, BR over here, Bihar, which is at 3.0. And the second, I'm sure, is the usual suspect, Uttar Pradesh, which should be here. UP, where do we go? Okay, so UP isn't here, but UP is also about 2 point something. Yeah. So other than them, you got 2.9 over here. MG is, what is MG? Meghalaya, maybe, yeah. MG is Meghalaya, Nagaland, SK, Telangana state, TR, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and so on. Goa. Look at all the studies that have come. Look at all this data. Infant mortality rate. Of course, the 2.1 doesn't consider infant mortality rate. But if you look at just these 2 states, UP and Bihar, other than them, every state, we have been seeing a dropping TFR, which means, like if you look at all these states, Andhra Pradesh 1.7, Assam 1.9, Goa 1.3, Gujarat 1.9, Himachal Pradesh 1.7, Karnataka 1.7. These are big states. Kerala, Maharashtra 1.7. In fact, Maharashtra urban population is at something like 1, and rural population is a little more. So that's the reason why it's like averaging out at 1.5 or 1.7. But otherwise, frankly, more than 50% of the people in population in Maharashtra now lives in cities. So you have all this data. So we barely at replacement rate throughout India, barely at replacement rate. So which means that the use of these family planning methods, etc., has been extremely successful. But what I am trying to understand is that success of family planning becomes irrelevant. If it becomes more successful, it becomes counterproductive. You understand? If we don't have enough of a population to replace our existing population, then over a growing period of time, we have lesser and lesser people going into the workforce. So it will become counterproductive. Now, I'll tell you, in a manner of speaking, if we compare population versus, let's say, trees. Why is that? Why am I doing this comparison? What is the economics behind this? I'm doing this because I'm trying to convince you about the fact that if we have population growth in certain areas, we will also have an increase in emissions, and we will have increase in pollution, increase in garbage, increase in sewerage, increase in noxious gases, and all of these things, which are not really very good for human health. And if you want them to succeed, or rather if you want humanity to be a very successful race at whatever it is doing, it should ideally live a lifestyle which is carbon neutral, water positive, zero discharge, which means that we need to grow more trees, encourage more greenery, so that we have a habitat which is cleaner, healthier, and easier on our lifestyles every other day. So I'll give you a case study with the economic data for you to understand where I'm coming from. So let's look at a case study of a city called Pune. And in Pune, we produce 2 crore 60 lakh 61,297 kilotons of CO2 of emissions per annum. Now these emissions have to get absorbed. So let's assume that they need to get absorbed by the trees in Pune. Let's assume that we have got only the trees to absorb all the CO2 emissions. So according to the tree census of the Pune City Municipal Corporation, you've got the total count of trees at 51 lakh 3,602 trees. Now, if I was to consider that we have only so many trees, and if I was to consider that this is our emission number, how much of these emissions can the trees that we have currently absorb? So, I've done some math, and in the math, what it looks like is that we've got 51 lakh 10,000, 51 lakh 3,602 trees. That's approximately 51 lakh trees, and we have so much emissions. That's 2.61 crore tons, and this is the data by PIC. And a tree absorbs on average 48 pounds of CO2 per annum, or 22 odd kilos. And that data, I have that reference I've taken from these papers by United States Department of Agriculture and Arbor Day and whatever. So Pune's tree cover barely absorbs 1,22,486.44 tons only, which is just, you could say, 0.5% of Pune's emissions. And why is that? That is because Pune's population is more than 1 crore people. So I haven't, of course, written the exact population number over here, because the census data from the latest census, so to speak, which has still not taken place, and I don't have the exact census data. So, but I'm going by the applied number, the growth rate number of Pune city, and approximately 1 crore people within Pune region or Pune city's area they generate these many emissions, and we have only so many trees. So ideally we would need 100 crore trees to absorb 100% of our emissions in Pune. That is the answer you're looking for. So to cut to the chase, that is what we will need. That is the exact number that we will need. And we right now have just 51 lakh trees. We don't even have 1 crore trees. So if you want to calculate it from the economics of population represented by trees or trees represented by population, and if I consider that Pune's population is 1 crore, then I need 10 trees per person to obviate these emission numbers, the emission numbers that you see over here, to obviate these emission numbers. So instead of having 10 trees per person, current day, my circumstances that I have only 1 tree for 2 people. So instead of having 10 trees per person, I have 1 tree for 2 people. That is the situation. So I have 0.5 trees per person. That is the problem of population versus emissions versus trees. I hope you enjoyed this video on the economics of or the math of trees versus the population growth in the world, population growth in India, population growth in particular cities, and how we are going to have to plant more trees to obviate the emissions damage that we have done for so many years. Thank you very much for watching. I will keep coming up with more interesting economics and more interesting concepts and stuff. Keep watching me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.